All right, I got a riddle for you. What do Donald Trump and Chris Licht, the now former head of CNN, have in common? I bet you didn't see that one coming, did you? First, one was famous for the phrase, "you're fired." The other one just got fired. But the similarities go much deeper than that. If you think about it, Trump came to Washington to shake up the status quo, to get government back to the idea and the ideal of serving the American people. That was what the America First agenda was all about. Chris Licht came to CNN with a goal of shaking up CNN, getting it back to serving its viewers and away from the activist branch of the DNC that it had become. After a year in the job, the CNN head is out. A brutal profile piece in the Atlantic magazine was his undoing, but I want to break down what was happening behind the scenes and why it matters. When Chris Licht was hired as the new head of CNN, he was clear the network had drifted way too far to the left. Everything had become sensational. Everything was breaking news. He believed needed to go back to its roots, back to what it claimed its slogan was all about: facts first. He actually thought it might be a good idea that the CNN audience heard from opposing views. I mean, views of, say, Republicans or conservatives, the people who control the House of Representatives. Maybe the audience could even wait for it, benefit, hear from supporters of Donald Trump. That guy who's leading the Republican field to be president, the same guy who's actually leading President Biden in polls. Look, I'm sure you don't watch CNN, and based on their recent ratings, not many people do. But by my count, they have one supporter of Trump that appears on air, and that's pretty rare. But here's the thing. Chris was right. He even pointed out how over-the-top CNN's COVID coverage had become. I mean, remember, it was a 24/7 ticker of every death that occurred during the pandemic, regardless of how that death related to COVID or not. And on that front, it wasn't his opinion about their coverage. It was a study, an academic study, and that was the conclusion. But as you can imagine, the prima donnas, the talent over there at CNN, the Jake Tappers and Anderson Coopers, they were outraged at these suggestions. They took them as accusations. You see, these folks don't want to be balanced or fair. They are activists, and Chris Licht threatened that. One step he should have taken immediately, day one, would have been to bring in more Republican voices and, yes, Trump supporters to be contributors, to give their perspective on key issues. Having a town hall with Donald Trump was a good idea, but until the internal unrest subsided and got on board with his plan and his vision, it never was going to work. Licht did some initial positive steps, though. He fired media activist Brian Stelter. He fired activist reporters like John Harwood and Chris Cillizza, and he even canned Don Lemon. But I do think that was mostly because Don Lemon wasn't in his prime anymore. I digress. But still, he had dissenters, and he needed to get rid of them. Jake Tapper, Anderson Cooper, Jim Acosta, that would have been a good start, because real wholesale change will and would never occur, nor would it be believed if these folks stay around. Just like the administrative state in Washington was and is threatened by Donald Trump, the activists at CNN, all those talent, they were threatened that someone might come in and actually promote something that we used to call journalism. Well, if you enjoyed this video, click the like button, subscribe, and ring the bell to make sure that you never miss another video.